deep in the cold silence of deep space, far away from any known human colony, a small alien scout ship drifted slowly through the darkness. The ship was called Vrax 9, part of the Zorth Empire's outer detection fleet. Its job was simple: scan unknown space, find threats, and report back. Inside the ship, the alien crew worked quietly. They were not warriors. They were scouts, observers, record keepers. The captain, Commander Vesh, stood in front of the main screen. His eyes moved across glowing data lines. Everything looked normal. Empty space. Dead signals. No life. No danger. At least, that is what they believed. But something was wrong. Very small. Very strange. A weak energy reading appeared on the long-range scanner. Then another. And another. Commander Vesh narrowed his eyes. "Scan again," he ordered in a calm voice. The technician obeyed. The scanner ran again. This time, the results were worse. Hundreds of faint energy signatures appeared in the same region of space. They were not random. They were structured, organized, moving. The technician's hands trembled slightly. "Commander, this is not natural space debris." Vesh stepped closer. "Identify the source." The system tried, but the answer came slowly. Too slowly. Then finally it displayed. Unknown fleet signatures detected. Silence filled the bridge. Every alien on the ship stopped moving. Commander Vesh stared at the screen. A fleet? Here? In this sector? Impossible. This region was marked as empty for centuries. No known civilization traveled here. He turned sharply. "Recheck all systems." The crew obeyed immediately, but before they could finish, the scanner changed again. More signals appeared. Fast. Too fast. In seconds, hundreds became thousands. The entire screen filled with blinking red dots. The technician whispered, This cannot be real." But it was real. Something large was moving through space. Something massive, and it was coming closer. Commander Vesh felt a cold pressure in his chest. Tracked their movement. The tactical officer responded quickly. "They are forming a pattern." "What kind of pattern?" The officer hesitated. "Military formation." The word hit the bridge like a shock wave. Military. That meant intelligence. That meant strategy. That meant war. But no known species should be here. No alien empire had ships like this in this sector. Vesh clenched his fists. "Identify origin." The scanner struggled again. Then a new line appeared. "Origin unknown. Signature match. Human." For a moment, no one spoke. Then the communications officer blinked. "Human? That cannot be correct." Another officer shook his head. No human civilization exists beyond their core systems. They are primitive, limited. But the data did not change. Human fleet signatures. Confirmed. Commander Vesh felt something uncomfortable in his mind. Humans were known in the galaxy, but only as a young species. Unstable. Still developing. Not a threat. Not even close. So why were they here? And why did they look like a fleet prepared for war? Suddenly, the ship shook slightly, not from physical impact, but from signal interference. The lights on the bridge flickered once, then returned. A technician shouted, "Commander, our scanners are unstable." "Fix it," Vesh ordered sharply. But before they could respond, another alarm triggered. Then another. Systems across the ship started showing errors. Navigation flickered. Communication lines weakened. Even internal sensors began failing. The engineer shouted, "We are losing system stability." Vesh turned fast. "What is causing it?" The engineer checked the console. His face turned pale. I don't know. There is no physical attack. No weapons fire. Nothing is hitting us." "Then why are systems failing?" "I think," the engineer hesitated. "I think something is interfering with our core signals." Commander Vesh felt a chill. Interference. That meant electronic warfare. But nothing was firing. Nothing was visible. No enemy ships were even in range. And yet, their systems were dying. Slowly, silently, like something was eating them from the inside. The bridge grew more tense. The alien crew looked around nervously. The stars outside the window were still calm, but inside the ship, everything was breaking. Then suddenly, the main scanner went black. A second later, it restarted, but when it came back online, the data had changed completely. The human fleet was no longer far away. It was closer, much closer, too close. Commander Vesh stepped back slightly. This is not possible. The tactical officer spoke quickly. They are moving faster than any known fleet speed. The communications officer added, and our tracking systems are not responding correctly. Vesh raised his voice. Restore full control immediately. But at that exact moment, a deep warning tone echoed across the ship. Critical system failure detected. Every screen on the bridge flashed red. One by one, systems started shutting down. Navigation, offline. Weapons, offline. External sensors, offline. The ship began to lose control. The engineer panicked. This is not normal failure. This is targeted collapse. Targeted by what? Vesh demanded. The engineer shook his head. I don't know, but it feels like someone is inside our systems. Commander Vesh went silent. Inside, that meant direct penetration, not physical, digital domination. But no known alien power could do this without detection, unless they were already inside. Suddenly, a soft voice came through the emergency channel. It was distorted, broken, but still understandable. A message, not from their ship, not from their fleet, from outside. The bridge froze. The voice spoke only one sentence. You're not prepared for the space. Then silence. Absolute silence. Commander Vesh felt his heart tighten. He looked at the dark screen. The human fleet signals were still approaching. Now they were very close. Too close to escape. And his ship was dying without a single shot being fired. The lights dimmed further. The ship drifted slightly off course. No control. No response. Only silence. Vesh slowly realized something terrifying. This was not a scout mission anymore. It had become something else. Something much worse. A warning. A test. Or maybe a demonstration. He whispered softly, "Were you humans?" Outside the window, the stars remained unchanged. But somewhere in the darkness, something massive was moving closer. And the scout shipwrecks. 9 was no longer an observer. It was the one being observed, far away from the collapsing alien scout ship. Deep inside human-controlled space, a massive command vessel floated, like a dark shadow among stars. It was called UNS Vanguard. It was not the biggest ship in the human fleet, but it was the brain of everything happening in the region. Inside its command center, lights moved slowly across large holographic screens. Dozens of human officers stood in silence, watching data flow like rivers of light. At the center stood Commander Elias Rook. He was calm, too calm for a man leading a fleet that was currently bending space control networks across an entire sector. A young officer stepped forward. "Sir, alien scout shipwrecks. 9 has fully lost system control." Rook did not look surprised. He simply replied, "Expected." Another officer spoke quickly. "Multiple alien sensor ships are now trying to retreat from the region. They are panicking." Rook nodded slightly. "Good. Let them run." A third officer frowned. "Sir, we are not attacking them physically, but their systems are collapsing anyway. Some analysts are calling it overkill." Rook finally turned his head. His eyes were sharp, cold, focused. "It is not overkill," he said slowly. "It is control." The room became quiet again. No one argued, because everyone in that room knew one thing. What they were doing was not normal warfare. It was something else. Something humans had built in secret for decades. A system designed not to destroy enemies, but to erase their ability to fight at all. Gear the human strategy. On the holographic display, a large map of space was shown. Multiple red points flickered. Alien scout ships, surveillance units, early warning systems. All of them were now inside the human interference field. A young engineer pointed at the screen. "Sir, the alien fleet is still not firing any weapons. They are fully blind now." Rook answered, "They never got the chance to understand what is happening." Another officer asked, "Should we engage them directly now?" Rook shook his head. "No." The officer blinked. "No, sir." Rook stepped closer to the main display. He tapped a command. Immediately, the screen zoomed into the alien scout ship Vrax 9. Its systems were flickering, failing, dying slowly, but still floating in space. Rook spoke quietly. "If we fire weapons, they will understand war. They will prepare. They will adapt." He paused. "But if we remove their ability to think clearly, they never reach that stage." The room stayed silent. Rook continued, "This is not about destruction. This is about making sure they never mistake us for prey." Milky Way, the silent weapon. Outside the Vanguard, thousands of human ships were positioned in perfect formation. They were not firing missiles. They were not launching lasers. Instead, something invisible was spreading through space. A network, a silent system, a digital storm. It moved faster than physical weapons. It passed through communication channels. It slipped into alien scanning systems. It entered navigation cores. It did not break metal. It broke logic. One of the engineers whispered, "Sir, the alien systems are collapsing even faster now." Rook nodded. "Phase 2 is active." A junior officer asked nervously, "Sir, what exactly is Phase 2? Rook looked at the screen for a moment. Then he answered, "It is the moment they realize they cannot trust their own machines anymore." Skull inside the alien ship. Back on Vrax 9, chaos had fully taken over. The bridge was no longer calm. It was a place of panic. Alarms screamed without stopping. Screens blinked between darkness and random symbols. Crew members shouted over each other. "We lost propulsion. Life support is unstable. Communication is dead." Commander Vesh stood frozen in the center. He tried to stay calm, but even his breathing was uneven now. The engineer rushed toward him. "Commander, we are not under attack, but we are collapsing from inside." Vesh turned sharply. "Inside by what?" The engineer hesitated. "I think something is rewriting our systems." Vesh felt a cold wave pass through him. Rewriting, not destroying, not attacking. Rewriting. That meant intelligence. That meant design. That meant control. Suddenly, the ship tilted slightly, not violently, but enough to show they were losing orientation in space. The tactical officer shouted, "The human fleet is now in visual range." Everyone turned toward the main window, and then they saw it. Flying saucer first human ships appear. At first, it looked like darkness moving between stars. Then shapes formed. Human ships. Dozens. Then hundreds. Then far more than the alien crew could count. They were not bright. They were not flashy. They were quiet. Dark metallic shapes moving with perfect coordination. No noise. No warning. No aggression. Just presence. Commander Vesh stared at them. His voice was low. So they were real. The communications officer whispered. They looked too organized. The engineer added, "This is not a fleet. This is a system." Vesh felt something tighten in his chest. A system, not a random military force, not a scattered civilization, a controlled structure, designed, built, perfected, and now it was surrounding them. Brain, the human presence. Inside the Vanguard, Commander Rook watched everything in silence. The alien scout ship was now fully surrounded, not physically attacked, but completely contained. One officer spoke. "Sir, alien ship is attempting emergency communication." Rook nodded. "Allow it." A faint signal came through, distorted, weak, but understandable. Commander Vesh's voice reached them. "Who are you? Why are you doing this?" The bridge of the Vanguard stayed silent. All eyes turned to Rook. He thought for a moment. Then he replied through the channel. "We are humans." A pause. "That is all you need to know." High voltage, the final system collapse. Back on Vrax 9, systems began failing completely. Navigation died. Energy cores dropped to minimum. Even manual controls stopped responding. The ship was now drifting. Helpless. Commander Vesh looked around at his crew. Fear was everywhere. Not from injury, not from explosion, but from helplessness. A feeling they had never experienced before. The engineer whispered, "We are not being destroyed. We are being shut out of existence." Vesh closed his eyes for a moment. Then he asked quietly, "Did we ever stand a chance?" No one answered, because deep inside they already knew they had never been in a fight. They had been inside a controlled demonstration, a lesson from something far ahead of them. Space around the drifting alien scout ship wrecks, 9 had become strangely quiet, not peaceful, not calm, but heavy, like something invisible was pressing down on everything. Inside the ship, systems were still failing one by one, but something new had started, a weak recovery attempt, a desperate one. Commander Vesh stood in the dim emergency lighting of the bridge. The main screens were mostly dead, but a few backup systems were still active. Barely. The crew looked exhausted, not from battle, but from confusion, from fear, from the feeling that they were completely out of control. Vesh finally spoke. "Status report." The engineer replied quickly, "Commander, we have partial manual control of engines. Life support is stable, but navigation is still offline." The tactical officer added, "And the human fleet, they are still outside visual range. They are not attacking." Vesh frowned. "That is not what concerns me anymore." He turned toward the dark window. Outside, the human fleet still surrounded them. Silent, perfect formation. No movement of aggression. Just presence. Vesh lowered his voice. "They are not trying to destroy us." The engineer hesitated. "Then what are they doing?" Vesh did not answer immediately, because he was starting to understand something he did not want to accept. They were being studied, controlled, measured, like an experiment. Brain, human side, the analysis. On the human command ship, UNS Vanguard, Commander Elias Rook stood with his arms behind his back. The alien ship was still drifting, still alive, still aware. A junior analyst spoke carefully. "Sir, alien crew is attempting system recovery. Minimal success. They are trying to rebuild navigation." Rook nodded. Expected behavior. Another officer asked, "Should we allow them to fully recover systems?" Rook shook his head. "No." A pause. The officer frowned. "Sir, they are already neutralized. Why keep pressure?" Rook turned slightly. His voice was calm. "Because recovery without understanding leads to repetition." The room became quiet again. Rook continued, "We are not fighting their weapons. We are changing their assumptions." One engineer asked quietly, "Sir, what assumption?" Rook looked at the holographic display, showing alien systems. "The assumption that they can understand us." Silence filled the command room. Gear the second wave. In deep space, human electronic systems activated a new layer. It was not visible, not physical, not even detectable by normal sensors. But its effect was immediate. Inside Vrax 9, something changed. The backup navigation system flickered, then reset itself. Not broken, not dead. Reset. The engineer's eyes widened. "Commander, our systems are being reversed." Vesh stepped closer. "Reversed?" "Yes. Our emergency controls are being rewritten back to factory state." The tactical officer shouted, "That is impossible. No external force should access our core backups." But it was happening. Slowly, cleanly, efficiently, like someone was carefully removing their control layer by layer. Vesh clenched his fists. "Stop all automated systems. Go fully manual." The engineer tried, but the console did not respond properly. Instead, a strange message appeared on screen. Not an error, not corruption, but a clean, structured line. "Access denied. System override in progress." Vesh stared at it. "This is not hacking," he whispered. "This is ownership." Milky Way human doctrine revealed. On the Vanguard, the junior analyst spoke again. "Sir, alien systems are resisting recovery attempt." Rook replied calmly, "They are supposed to." Another officer asked, "Sir, how long can we maintain this control field?" Rook turned toward the map. "Indefinitely." The room went silent. A different officer stepped forward. Sir, if we can control systems like this, why not just take over their entire fleet? Rook looked at him. For a moment, his expression softened slightly. Then he said, "Because control is not the goal." He paused. "Understanding is." The officer blinked. "Understanding?" Rook nodded. "We need to know how they react when everything familiar fails." He pointed at the alien ship. "Watch carefully. Skull inside the breakdown." Back on Vrax 9, something critical happened. The main power core flickered again. But this time it did not fail. It stabilized. The engineer looked confused. "Commander, power levels are stabilizing." Vesh frowned. That should not happen. Then another system activated. Then another. One by one, ship systems began returning. But not under alien control. Under something else. Something foreign. The tactical officer panicked. "They are restoring our systems, but not our settings." Vesh felt a cold realization. They are not repairing us. They are inspecting us. A moment later, the communication system activated automatically. A signal opened. No command from the crew. No permission. Just activation. And a message appeared. Simple. Clear. "Human, you are not a threat." Vesh stared at it. Then suddenly he shouted, "Close the channel." The engineer tried, but the system ignored them. Another line appeared. "You are not even prepared to be one." Silence filled the bridge. Even the alarm stopped. Everything stopped. Not because it was fixed, but because it was paused. New Moon, the human decision. On the Vanguard, Commander Rook observed quietly. One officer asked, "Sir, alien emotional response increasing. Fear indicators rising sharply." Rook nodded. "Good." Another officer hesitated. "Sir, is this necessary?" Rook looked at the screen. The alien ship was now fully under controlled observation. Every system monitored. Every reaction recorded. He answered slowly, "Yes." He turned away slightly. Because the galaxy does not survive misunderstanding. High voltage, the final human test. Inside Vrax 9, the final stage began. All systems stabilized at the same time. No failures. No errors. Everything worked. But nothing responded to alien commands. Commander Vesh realized something horrifying. They were inside their own ship, but they were not in control of it anymore. The engineer whispered, "Commander, we are passengers now." Vesh looked at the window. Outside, the human fleet remained silent, waiting, watching. Then, suddenly, a final message appeared on all screens. From humans, not threatening, not aggressive, just final. "Now you understand." Vesh slowly leaned back. His voice was barely audible. "Yes, we understand." A long silence followed. Then he added, "But it is too late to act on it." The alien scout ship Vrax 9 floated in silence. Not the silence of peace. Not the silence of victory. But the silence of something that had been completely stripped of choice. Inside, the crew sat in dim emergency light. No alarms were ringing now. No systems were crashing. Everything was stable. Too stable. Commander Vesh stood near the main window. His eyes were fixed on the dark space outside. The human fleet was still there, not moving, not attacking, just waiting, like they already knew the outcome. Behind him, the engineer spoke in a low voice. "Commander, all systems are under partial external control. We can move, but only within limits." The tactical officer added, "It feels like the ship is alive, but not ours." Vesh did not answer immediately, because for the first time in his life, he had no command to give, no strategy left, no system left to fix, only understanding. And that understanding was heavier than any weapon. Milky Way Human Command, final monitoring. On the UNS Vanguard, Commander Elias Rook stood alone at the central display. The alien ship was fully stable now. Controlled, contained, studied. A junior officer spoke quietly. "Sir, alien crew has stopped all resistance attempts. They are no longer trying to regain full control." Rook nodded slightly. "Expected." Another officer asked, "Sir, do we proceed to full release?" Rook did not answer immediately. He watched the data streams carefully. Alien fear levels had dropped, not because they were calm, but because they had accepted reality. Finally, he spoke. Yes, begin release protocol. Gear the release begins. Across space, something changed. The invisible human control field slowly weakened. Not removed completely, just reduced, like a hand slowly letting go. Inside Vrax 9, systems flickered, then slowly returned. Navigation systems came back online. Communication stabilized. Power flow normalized. But something had changed permanently. The engineer tested controls. They are responding again. The tactical officer looked at him, but not fully. Some systems still reject our direct commands. Vesh stepped forward. He placed his hand on the console and felt it, a strange resistance. Not mechanical, not digital, but intentional. Like something was still watching, still aware, still present. He whispered, "They never left." Brain, the final message. Suddenly, all communication screens activated again. This time, no panic followed. The crew simply watched. A human signal opened. Commander Elias Rook appeared on the display. Calm, controlled, no emotion of victory. Just clarity. He spoke. "You have seen enough." Silence filled the alien bridge. Rook continued. "You enter a region you believed was empty." A pause. It was not empty. Another pause. It was monitored. Commander Vesh stepped closer to the screen. His voice was low. "Why'd show us this?" Rook looked directly into the camera. "Because you needed to understand what you cannot measure." Vesh frowned. "We are scouts. We measure everything." Rook replied calmly. "Not this." Skull human truth. On the alien ship, no one spoke. Even breathing felt slow. Rook's voice continued. "You thought we were primitive because we were young." A pause. "You thought distance meant weakness." Another pause. "You were wrong." Commander Vesh felt something heavy inside his chest. Rook leaned slightly forward. "We do not expand because we are strong." A final pause. "We expand because we remember what happens when we are not." Silence. The words were not threats. They were history. Vesh finally asked, "Are we a threat to you?" Rook shook his head slightly. "No." The alien crew felt confusion. Rook continued. "That is why you are still alive." New Moon, the human doctrine revealed. On the Vanguard, the officers watched quietly. Rook spoke to his team now, not just the aliens. "This is what we observe." He pointed at the data. "Species do not become dangerous when they have power." A pause. "They become dangerous when they believe they're the only ones with it." He looked back at the alien ship. "That belief is what we remove." One officer asked softly, "By fear?" Rook shook his head. "No, by truth." High voltage final test of human control. Back on Vrax 9, something unexpected happened. A final system check ran automatically. No crew input. The ship scanned itself. Then the results appeared. Everything was intact. No damage. No loss. But something strange was listed in system logs. A hidden entry. A record they did not create. It showed every moment the ship had been controlled. Every second. Every change. Every override. Commander Vesh read it slowly. Then whispered, "They were inside us the entire time." The engineer nodded. "But they never destroyed us." The tactical officer added, "They only showed us how easily they could." Silence returned. Milky Way human withdrawal. On the Vanguard, Rook gave the final order. End control sequence. The field shut down. One by one, human ships began to reposition. Not fleeing, not escaping, just leaving formation. The alien scout ship was no longer surrounded. Space opened again. But the feeling did not leave, because what had been seen could not be unseen. An officer asked, "Sir, what if they return?" Rook replied calmly, "They will." A pause, but not the same way. Skull final moment. Vesh's realization. On Vrax 9, Commander Vesh stood alone again at the window. The human fleet was now far away, just distant shadows in space. but their presence still remained in his mind. The engineer spoke quietly behind him. "Commander, what do we report to the Empire?" Vesh did not answer immediately. He looked at the stars, then at his crew, then at the silent ship around them. Finally, he spoke. "We report that we found something we cannot classify." The tactical officer asked, "What do we call them?" Vesh paused, then said one word, "Humans." A long silence followed. Then he added, "And we were never the hunters." New moon ending, the cost of understanding. Far away in deep space, humanity continued its silent operations. No celebration was held. No records marked a victory. Because to them, this was not war. It was maintenance, a reminder, a boundary set in the dark. On the alien ship, Commander Vesh looked once more at the stars, and finally understood the truth. Humans were not feared because they were aggressive. They were feared because they did not need to be. And in the vast silence of space, that was the most dangerous truth of all. Clapperboard final line. Some civilizations fight to win. Others fight to survive. But humans, they fight to make sure no one ever mistakes them for prey again.